Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Janavallabha Girivardhari Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamunatira Banachari Jamunathira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey! Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Hey, Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jasura Nandana Braja Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Ho! Sisi Radha Madhava ki Sisi Radha Giridhari Gidai Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Braj Kacharya Sundara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Abhai Charanha Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayo Vishnupad Paramahamsa Puri Braj Kacharya Sundara Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जाए ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जाए Samveda Bhakti ki jai. Go Premanandi. All glories to the sum of the devotees, all glories, sum of the devotees, all glories, sum of the devotees, all glories, all glories, Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. So this morning, reading from the 7th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 13, the behavior of a perfect person. We're going to be reading a few verses this morning, starting with 38, which has no purport, 39 with no purport, 40, that's what's on the board, right? We'll be chanting that together, and it has a purport. And we'll also read 41, which has no purport, and that way, who gives class tomorrow? Okay, so he starts out with a very juicy verse and purport, so make sure you all come to class tomorrow. Juicy, rasa, right? Juice, rasa. Very, very delicious purport and verse for tomorrow. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Please. I was just going to do the translations 40 because that has the purport. Okay. I'll just read the translations to 38, 39, and then we'll get right into chanting 40. Okay, because it all leads up, all similar. So text 38. Who's speaking here? Python man, right? Sometimes I eat a very small quantity, and sometimes a great quantity. It's like the old days in ISKCON. During the week, it was a small quantity. You waited for the Sunday feast. You didn't get anything to eat till Sunday. Sometimes the food is very palatable, and sometimes it is stale. Sometimes prasad is offered with great respect, and sometimes food is given neglectfully. Sometimes I eat during the day, and sometimes at night. Thus I eat what is easily available. That's the principle. Text 39. To cover my body, I use whatever is available, whether it be linen, silk, cotton, bark, or deer skin, according to my destiny, and I am fully satisfied and unagitated. That's the point. So text 40. Kvachich, chaye, daro paste, trina, parnashma, basmasu, kvachit, prasada, paryanke, kashipau, va, parichaya, kvachichaye daropaste, trina parnashma bashmasu, kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya, Kvachichaye daropaste, Trina panashma basmasu, Kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya, Kvachitchaye daropaste, Trina parnashma basmasu, Kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya. Anyone like to chant? Kvachitchaye daropaste, Parnashma basmasu, Kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya, Kvachitchaye daropaste, Parnashma basmasu, Kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya, Kvachitchaye daropaste, Trina parnashma basmasu, Kvachit prasada paryanke, Kashipava parichaya, Kvachitchaye daropaste, Chichaye Daropaste Trina Parashma Pashmasu Kvachit Prasada Paryanke Kashipava Parechaya. Anyone else? Kvachit, sometimes. Shaye, I lie down. Dhara upaste, on the surface of the earth. Trina, on grass. Parna, leaves. Ashma, stone. Basmasu, or a pile of ashes. Kvachit, sometimes. Prasada, in palaces. Paryanke, on a first-class bedstead. Kashipao, on a pillow. Va, either. Is it either or either? It depends on where you grew up. Either one? Okay. Para, of another. Ichchaya, by the wish. Translation. Sometimes I lie on the surface of the earth, sometimes on leaves, grass or stone, sometimes on a pile of ashes, or sometimes, by the will of others, in a palace on a first-class bed with pillows. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The learned Brahmana's description indicates different types of births for one who lies down according to one's body. Sometimes one takes birth as an animal, and sometimes as a king. When he takes birth as an animal, he must lie down on the ground. Of course, nowadays, sometimes the dog and the cats lie on the nice bed of pillows. Okay, anyways, let's keep moving, okay. And when he takes birth as a king or very rich man, he is allowed to lie in first-class rooms in huge palaces decorated with beds and other furniture. You know, sometimes they have these very wealthy people and they leave all their money to their dog. The dog has a mansion and a butler and everything like that. So what kind of karma is that? Oh, life member, the dog, okay. Was there special pricing for that? Or charge them double? Because you have to. Such facilities are not available, however, such facilities are not available, however, at the sweet will of the living entity. Rather, they are available by the supreme will, parichaya, or by the arrangement of Maya. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, 61st verse, Ishwara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrudhani maya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The living entity, according to his material desires, receives different types of bodies, which are nothing but machines offered by material nature according to the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. By the will of the Supreme, one must take different bodies with different means for lying down. Okay, let me finish with just reading the translation to 41. My Lord, sometimes I bathe myself very nicely, smear sandalwood pulp all over my body, put on a flower garland, and dress in fine garments and ornaments. Then I travel like a king on the back of an elephant or on the chariot or horse. Sometimes, however, I travel naked like a person haunted by a ghost. Om Gyanti Varandasya Gananjana Salakaya Chakshur Unminitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhascha, Kripa Sindhu Bevacha, Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. By your good wishes and ardent prayers, I'll try to say a few things. You can add to this verse, Sankashan. You can say, sometimes I stay asleep in class, and sometimes I'm awake in class. All by the will of the Lord. Like that. One thing I wanted to bring about yesterday about the bees. Bees was one of the examples he gave about bees and about python. It's an interesting fact about bees, and I found out a lot about bees because I was in Slovenia. And Slovenia has the largest number of beekeepers in the world. 1 out of 20 people in that country have bees. They have the best honey in the world, et cetera, and their bees are exported all over the world. So they know a lot about bees. So I was asking them, because, vegans and different groups, vegans, they don't want to take honey. It says exploitation of the bees. So I asked the beekeeper about that. And what he explained, because it talked about in the verse that they only work, because the thing is someone's going to take the honey. So why work so hard if someone's going to take your honey? Makes sense, right? So the thing is, bees, what's the honey for? It's for the winter. They need some food when everything gets, all the flowers aren't there and it's cold and snowy and they all get inside their honeycomb, hive, and so on, and buckle down, is that what they say? Buckle down for the winter? Yeah. Like that. And they're eating the honey. That keeps them going. So they need a certain amount for the winter. And they're working. But the thing is, the point is the beekeepers, they take the honey. But they monitor how much they take because they have to make sure, because of the time in the summer, the bees will actually make enough for their winter. Okay. And it's a fact that if you don't take that honey, they can actually make too much. And then there's no room for them in the hive because it's all full of honey. Can you imagine you went upstairs and you opened the door to your ashram and all this honey poured out? It's like, there's no room for me to get in here. There's too much honey. So there can be a problem. It can go bad. So it's an interesting balance with human beings and bees. So the point is saying they're not overworked. You could say, hey, you shouldn't do that. But the thing is, if you don't take the honey, they're going to keep doing it, and they can create other kinds of problems, just like cows and milk. 90% of the milk from the mother actually, put it this way, the calf only takes about 10-15% of the milk. What do you do with all the milk? It seems there's a natural arrangement for human beings and cows to have that arrangement. There's so much extra milk. Yeah, there's all kinds of problems. So the same with the bees. But they know they just want to make enough for the winter. And they're programmed like that. It's a very interesting thing about them also. It's pointed out in that book, Nature's IQ, about bees. So bees go out, and then a bee comes back, like on a recon, is that what they call it? Comes back, and there's a dance they do. He stretches a straight line, kind of vertically, and he's actually navigating horizontally, but he goes up vertically, and he goes from left to right. Certain amount, he wiggles his, what do you call the back of a bee? Huh? No, that's the front. Well, the stinger's on the very back, but the back of his body, depending on how much he goes over the line, this much and that much, it tells the other bees exactly how far the flowers are that he found. Wow. He does a figure 8, and by his wiggling, it's an exact map of where they should go to get the honey, to get the nectar from the flowers. Who knew? Like that. So, a little bit about bees. So these verses here, what to do about this? This austerity, severe austerity and tolerance. When do we decide that, okay, we're just going to sleep on the floor, or we're going to sleep on a mat, or we're going to you're all going to show up in Bhagavatam class tomorrow naked? How do you decide all of that? Because you just do whatever comes, right? That's the Python man. Just whatever is available by destiny, that I accept. Okay? So it has to have a little deeper understanding. And for us, it's a very easy explanation because we're preaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message all over the world. So, Yukta Vairagya. According to what's best for the preaching, that's what we're going to accept. Sometimes in our preaching, we don't have anything. Nothing comes. It's and sometimes so much comes. So that's our guide in life as far as our how much we accept or don't accept, but we tolerate because in preaching there's automatic. The point is austerities. The reason he's doing this is because you have to become detached from the body. We're so attached to the body. Raise your hand if you're not attached to your body. See? I made my point. We're all, raise your hand if you are not super attached to your body. Okay, is that because you're older?
Well, super is the word,
Okay. Well, I didn't say, I would raise your hand if you're a degraded debauch and you're just like into sense gratification all day long. But we're pretty attached to our body. We just are. Point, you stub your toe and what do you say? Don't repeat it. Oh yeah, hopefully you say Hare Krishna, right? So, Maharaj was in a car once and he said, a sannyasi driving or something like that, and something happened. He said, Jesus Christ! Jesus Christ, not Hare Krishna. He said, Jesus Christ. So, who knows what's going to come out when there's threat of bodily harm. Jesus Christ. That's on the good side. It could have been something else. But we're very, very attached to these bodies. We have to become detached. So this Python man was in a particular type of yoga, you could say, or spiritual practice, where he was whatever comes by Krishna's arrangement. Now, that's the lesson to learn. Whatever comes by Krishna's arrangement. Krishna's arranging everything, and we're preaching, but sometimes it's going to be very, very nice, and sometimes it's going to be very uncomfortable, and we simply have to tolerate it. What's the verse in the Bhagavad Gita about matra sparstas tu konteya sitosha sukha dukkha da? You have to learn how to tolerate the happiness and distress of this body and the senses. Happiness and distress comes just like winter and summer seasons. And one last, tam satiksha shabharata. Satiksha means you have to be tolerant. You have to be tolerant to these things. But why are we tolerating these things? It's for preaching. We're not tolerating them just for the sake of tolerating them. There are some yogis who do that. And it can be carried too far. I'll give you an example. Sometimes you speak to Buddhists who are not vegetarian. Now, if that's not an oxymoron, I don't know what is. What was the main preaching of Lord Buddha? Ahimsa. And how now they're completely satisfied with the fact that they're not vegetarians. You know the argument they give? That when you are begging, whatever they give you. Because if you discriminate between a bowl of rice and a Big Mac, then you're in illusion. So a highest principle is you don't discriminate. So whatever they give you, like that, you eat it. So if they give you a bowl of stool, will you eat that? No. Or mud. But see, the whole thing is, it's higher and lower principles. Higher and lower principles. The principle of compassion to other living entities is higher than, just whatever people give me. Just like ourselves, you go to someone's house and go, Panditji, what do you eat? And they put away all the stuff you're not supposed to see, like that, and make sure you have vegetarian and, sattvic, some sattvic, maybe today that's my line, maybe today just some fruit and nuts and yogurt. Maybe today, that's all, I'm fasting, Instead of, whatever they feed me, I will eat. Well, you'd be in a lot of trouble if you have that philosophy. You'd be in a lot of trouble these days, right? Right, Ramapati? You'd be in a lot of trouble like that. Our spiritual life is ruined, and that's the example of the Buddhists. Whatever spiritual life they have is ruined by this idea that whatever comes, it is by the grace of Buddha. No, it's not there at all. Not there at all. So that's an extreme example. Oh, Krishna. Let's see here, because I wanted to go into this. Cancel this dialogue. Text. Getting back on the. There we go. So now in the purport. Okay, I talked too much. Let's get right to the point here. One verse I wanted to bring up about this tolerating. About the tolerating. One thing I was going to bring up in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada talks in the purport about our different bodies by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you look in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text 7 through 11, it talks about how the living entity, we're part and parcel of Krishna, but we come into this, we have a particular body, eyes, nose, ears, sense of touch, and so on. And People try to understand the difference between the body and the soul, but they can't understand it, even they try to. But a self-realized soul can see there's a difference between the body and the soul is moving on from one body to the next according to their karma. And there's two things here, because Prabhupada mentions the desire. According to his material desires, he receives different types of bodies. But along with desires, what else is there? What other factor? Deserve. Prabhupada said, deserve and desire. Prabhupada said, first deserve, then desire. We may want all kinds of things, but if we don't earn it, we're not going to get it. Like that. It's like so many people talk about, we mentioned this before in previous times, about funerals. Usually at a funeral, people talk about, oh, he must be in heaven. Right? He must be in heaven. Like that. But is he? Like that? It's a nice idea, but do you really think he went to heaven, that everything was cleared off? Somehow or other, everyone becomes a saint at their funeral or something, right? Oh, he must be in heaven with his mom and dad and his kids and whatever. So maybe not. It's a nice idea. You desire such a thing. They were desiring such a thing, but maybe it didn't happen. So I overheard this thing on NPR the other day. Some famous author, she had written some books. I don't even remember what the books were. But the last question to her was, are you afraid of death? Are you afraid of death? Are you afraid of death? Okay. She said, no, I'm not really afraid of death, I'm going to die. And I think her idea was, I'm going to die and become fertilizer. Fertilizer. In other words, there's nothing after death. But she said, what I'm afraid of is coming up to death. Because she said, I've had so many friends who've had, protracted times in the hospital with horrible diseases, very, very painful, and other friends who have dementia and so on. And that's like, it's like those movies where they're in outer space and the guy's outside the capsule and all of a sudden the rope breaks. You see him just float off. That look on his face, right? It's like, yeah, I'm gone. It's very sad. So she was saying that's what she's afraid of. But as far as what happens to me after death, nah. But that's ignorance. What does happen after death? Soul's eternal, and you have your karma. I think you'd be a little wise to be a little fearful or concerned about what happens after death, instead of, it's very convenient to say it's all over, but where'd that idea come from? Where's the validity to that idea? Let's talk about it. So the point is that we're changing bodies, and it's what we deserve, what we desire. Krishna explains that in the 15th chapter. What I wanted to bring up, though, was this, we talked about, we are tolerating many different things in our Krishna consciousness, and there's a famous verse Prabhupada quotes, prayers by Lord Brahma, in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto. Yes, tate nukampam susukshamano bunjayevatma kritam vipakam hridvag vapuvir viritam namaste jivatayo muktipade sadaya bhak. So this is our guide, the verse to guide us through our life in this material world. So the translation is, my dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. So that's our what we follow, our advice, I get like a Mahavakya, I guess, big important verse, Prabhupada says. Because everyone is suffering in this material world, so how to see that suffering? Devotees waiting for Krishna, knows Krishna will be kind to me, merciful to me, patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds. And one way you can also, past misdeeds could be even your pious activities, because they stick you in this material world too. We're suffering on both sides, really. Prabhupada would say many times, there's no happiness in this material world. It's all mental concoction. The happiness and the stress is, just like if someone wins the lottery, is that happiness or distress? It can be one or the other. It can be great distress if you win the lottery. So it's not that everything seems, but in the purport, the suffering we go through, everyone's suffering in the material world. How about the devotees suffering? Right? We're all suffering. And sometimes devotees think, I'm suffering more since I became a devotee. What's going on here? But in this purport, Prabhupada points out a very wonderful explanation to the suffering devotees go through. And here it is. It's 14.8. Excuse me. Okay. The purport. The purport. So, are you part of this purport? English editor? Okay, there we go. We have an esteemed member of the purport committee right here. Okay. So, Lord Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that a devotee who fully surrenders unto him is no longer liable to suffer the reactions of his previous karma. However, because in his mind a devotee may still maintain the remnants of his previous sinful mentality, the Lord removes the last vestiges of the enjoying spirit by giving his devotee punishments that may sometimes resemble sinful reactions. The purpose of the entire creation of God is to rectify the living entity's tendency to enjoy without the Lord, and therefore the particular punishment given for a sinful activity is specifically designed to curtail the mentality that produced the activity. Although a devotee has surrendered to the Lord's devotional service until he is completely perfect in Krishna consciousness, he may maintain a slight inclination to enjoy the false happiness of this world. The Lord therefore creates a particular situation to eradicate this remaining enjoying spirit. This unhappiness suffered by a sincere devotee is not technically a karmic reaction. It is rather the Lord's special mercy for inducing his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. A sincere devotee earnestly desires to go back to the Lord's abode. Therefore, he willingly accepts the Lord's merciful punishment and continues offering respects and obeisances to the Lord with his heart, words, and body. Such a bona fide servant of the Lord, considering all hardship a small price to pay for gaining the personal association of the Lord, certainly becomes a legitimate son of God, as indicated here by the words Daya Bhak. So, this is the explanation for our suffering as devotees. And it's different than those of the non-devotees. Their suffering is just their karmic reactions. You're going to get it. But it says here, no, Krishna, for the devotee, he immediately takes control of our lives and is making all kinds of arrangements for us to become purified and Krishna conscious. It's interesting here, Prabhupada is very generous in his description that we may just have a slight inclination to enjoy. I think there's another here. I think I have a overabundance of an inclination to enjoy the material world. So depending on how much that is. Okay. How many here think they only have like 10% left of a desire to enjoy the material world? Raise your hand. How about 50%? How about 75? 90%? I got a 90 over there. So that was 90 or more. Okay. So the thing is, depending on how high that is, that's how much suffering Krishna has to give us to make us let go. That's what Prabhupada says here. Let go, I'm not Prabhupada, but the purport, his devotee to completely let go of the material world and return home back to Godhead. Just like if you're holding on to something, your parent used to slap your hand, let go of that. And you held on, you slap them harder. So you slap them real hard. Okay, I'll let go. Okay? So the question is, how hard does Krishna have to slap us to make us let go? Right? We determine that by reducing our enjoying spirit from abundant to slight, and then even less and less and less and less. So how much are we going to suffer? We actually are the architects of our destiny in our devotional service. How much are we going to suffer in the future in our Krishna, in this life as devotees? It's dependent upon our inclination to enjoy this material world. Because Krishna very, very kindly is controlling how much he has to pressurize us. Is that the word they use now? Pressurize. To let go. That's what's happening. So why is a devotee so happy even when he suffers? Oh, Krishna's just trying to help me let go of something that's not going to make me happy anyways, right? Just let go. So Krishna's so kind. So that's why in happiness or distress, devotee is very, very peaceful. He's not peaceful. The Python man was a transcendentalist and spoke of the Supreme Lord. Am I right or wrong? Was he a devotee? Was he speaking of the absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Python man? Not much. Okay. So, but the point is sometimes spirituality is devoid of devotional service and God. It's just a matter of like rejecting the material world and becoming like a rock, like that. Just no feelings, just, and whatever suffering comes, you tolerate it. What is that called? Is it philosophy of just tolerating all the misery? So, because of the S, doesn't it? Stoicism. Just like that. Like the Stoicism. Wow. Just like it's an unfortunate truth in history. St. Francis, God bless him, was an amazing devotee of the Lord. But he died because he performed too many austerities. He actually killed himself by starving himself, and he was so austere. In fact, he was so austere, he scared people, and they removed him as the head of the Franciscan movement. He just got out there so far, but he was just so detached. It just like was too much for everyone. It's an interesting part of history, so I went a little too far. But the main point, your take-home, or take-ashram, what do you want to call it today, is this verse by Lord Brahma about why we're suffering as devotees. And, some people, all people, when they suffer, what do they say? Why am I suffering? Why me? Why me? Why me? I go to church every week. Give him his $5 back and tell him to go to hell. You know that joke, right? So why am I suffering? In fact, they say that's the number one question every clergy gets. Doesn't matter if you're a rabbi. Doesn't matter if you're a Hindu priest. Doesn't matter if you're a minister or a priest or whatever you are. You get the same question over and over and over again. Why am I suffering? Why am I suffering? So the devotee knows, I know exactly why I'm suffering. Krishna is so kind that he's just trying to help me let go of this material world. That's why I'm suffering. That's why I'm suffering as a devotee. So it's quite different. It's very different than the materialist. And that's also brought up in the Brahma Samhita, that one verse about the Indragopa. Everyone's suffering from Indragopa. But the devotee, though, it's different. It's karma. Whereas everyone else, according to their, I forget how the translation goes, according to their whatever, they're getting their happiness and distress. But the devotee is different. It's different. The Bhakti Bhajam it is completely different. Yeah, Krishna takes care of it. He's taking care of it. Whereas everyone else, here you go, you just got your things to work out. But as soon as you turn to Krishna, he takes special interest, and Krishna's arranging it. So if you're upset with your misfortune or suffering today and tomorrow, and who do you blame? Yeah, you can blame Krishna if you want. You should blame yourself, but you can actually address Krishna. Oh, Krishna, not like, I don't deserve this. Krishna, thank you so very much. Thank you because on my own, I would never let go. I'd never do it. You are so kind. You're so kind. There are those who are neglected, it says, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but the devotees aren't neglected. Oh, Krishna, there we go. He's right in your heart. Oh, Dvijamani, this is what you need today. This woman's going to come up to you and slap you in the face. And you're going to say, thank you, Krishna. I needed that. And the next person is going to come up and buy a full set. Krishna, thank you very much. Krishna's just doing both. Krishna's taking care. It happens every day. So that we're happy that someone's looking after us, right? Who's the most unhappy child? There's no parent, no one's looking after him. And it's interesting, when you're young, you get all upset your parents chastise you. And then when you get older, you go, I'm so glad my parents taught me to be honest and clean and this and that, and wouldn't let me go out at night and all these different things. You don't appreciate it when you're a teenager especially, but when you grow up you go, boy, my parents raised me very, very nicely. And that means they chastised me, wouldn't let me do this and that, and got on my case. They cared for me. So that's a sign of care. So Krishna cares for us, and he will do whatever is necessary to help us let go. So I can end here because of the time. Is there any questions or comments? Or there's a lot to be said on this point, I imagine.
You're mentioning that the proper attitude, and it's mentioned in the verse, to take when something negative happens to you is positive toward Krishna. Thank you, because you're helping me to give up my attachment to this world. But there's another side to it that's also an austerity. When good things happen to you, that you just say, oh, thank you, Krishna, and then you just enjoy. But no, you see that as Krishna is giving you something that you can increase your service for. In other words, oh, thank you for giving me this facility so that I can do better service for you. And the other, so it's positive to Krishna, thank you. And the other side is, thank you, Krishna, for helping me become detached. So in both cases, because the karma is so, varied, in one sense. So you get bad things and you get good things. So you see them all as Krishna's, hand behind them. And one is that he's helping you to become detached, which is thank you very much. And the other is that, oh, you're helping me to facilitate my service. Now, you've given me this money. Now I can pay for the Rath Yatra. I remember there was one of the first London Rath Yatras. I think it was Mahavishnu Maharaj, the original Mahavishnu Maharaj. He had come into an inheritance, and he used it all to facilitate that big Rath Yatra where Prabhupada came. He danced,
Mm-hmm.
And he said, oh yes, he's very well spent. He spent it very well.
Anything else?
Krishna, thank you for the class. You mentioned that Krishna gives us some suffering, and then it's like push us to go back to Godhead. But I have a question: is it possible without this suffering, some souls which made to go without this suffering, or no?
Okay. Can I always ask that myself too. Because there's a saying, sooner or later, the foot's going to come down, right? Sooner or later. And we see many devotees, unfortunately, suffering. And we ask ourselves, when is it going to happen to me? Does it have to happen? Can I just be a nice person and avoid? Just go, and why do I really have to get this disease? And that's Ladali, when she was in Vrindavan, maybe it's happened to her and she's better. But when Lokanath Maharaj found out about what happened, she came off the stage and went up to him, and he said to her, he said, every single devotee here, all the devotees here, one of these diseases is going to get us. Who's immune? Sankarshan, which one for you? Was he fall asleep all the time? Narcolepsy. Narcolepsy. That's what's going to get you. Got to be careful.
And don't forget, it doesn't just have to be a disease.
Yeah, something's going to get us. Something is going to get us. What is it going to be? We can't choose. It would be interesting if you had to choose. Like they give you a menu and you have to choose. Well, how do you want to go, Priya? How do you want to go? Like Prabhupada talked, the same subject, Prabhupada's talking about, people, they don't care about death. And he talks always about meeting Lord Brockwell or something like that in England, and he asked him about death. And old, prestigious person saying, oh, I'm not worried about death. I'll simply pass away in my sleep. He said it with an English accent. I'm sorry. I'll pass away in my sleep. So, just like old man, probably foolish. What fool? So foolish. What do they think? No understanding about karma. Oh, everything's okay. I'll just pass away in my sleep. But something's going to happen to us. Can you imagine if you had a menu you had to pick? And it's a long menu. Boy, you ever see some of these diseases, you think, my God, this happened, you're so many parts of the body and they just fall apart, and this disease and that disease and incurable and tropical diseases, and it's unbelievable. The brain, all kinds of things can happen in the heart, and far out, Pretty amazing. But one of them, it's got our name on it. And it's coming. And we don't know how far it is. Is it like in L.A.? It's only got a few hours to get here? Or is it like on the other side of the world? Or is it like out by Pluto and it's going to take a few years to get here? We don't know. We don't know. But it's like we had a member of our congregation, Indian man, passed away this year. And one of the things he did, he worked for the United States government in the military. And he designed the video cameras on the front of missiles. I was talking to his godbrother the other day, and he was saying that his guru in Navadvip would never take any money from him, even though he was worth a lot of money. And maybe it was because he knew where that money came from. But anyways, those videos, they just lock in, and they got your picture. Wherever you are, they're going to find you. So that's what it is. That disease, that accident, whatever, it's got a picture of us, and it's coming. And we don't know how far it's got to go to get to us. Who can say? Therefore, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. 24 hours a day. So back to your question. I really went off on a tangent. I'm sorry. Who knows? Krishna may, Mrs. Prakash, sitting on a couch chanting japa, and just left her body. Mr. Prakash. So many pious people and devotees, they just left. So it can happen. It can happen. God bless them. Krishna is very, very kind. So who knows? Who knows?
Well, sometimes you do know.
I remember, for some reason, devotees often asked me to come and sing at the time, And I remember with Radhanath Das Prabhu, and you will recall, he was he was holding on for a long time. He was incredibly courageous. He would go out, even in his wheelchair or whatever this contraption was. And then at one point, he had some health crisis, and he had to go to the hospital. And so I would go see him, but several times. But Rajendranandana, he would spend hours with him. He was, fantastic. So what I heard is from Radhanath is that the doctors told him, well, you don't have to die here. This is not. But you're going to have to give up. You're going to have to be pretty much on this breathing machine all the time. So I said, forget that. So he decided to go. And so he said, can you come Friday? He said, no, I can't come Friday because I'm going to Alatra. I was going to Alatra Friday morning early, or something like that. So he said, okay, let's do it Thursday. So so the word went out, and everybody came there. We were crowded into his hospital room. And then the time came, and they pulled the plug, and he was just lying there, and you could see his, vitals were going down, and he was chanting like crazy, So the idea is that he decided, no, I don't want to hang on. If I can't do preaching and so forth, then I'll just go. So sometimes it's like that you can decide.
Yogis can decide.
Yeah, the yogis can decide, or devotees. Oftentimes they just stop eating and drinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe you took some deep breaths or what?
Radhanath?
Yeah.
Well, we were chanting like anything, and we were basically looking at the vitals. He wasn't reacting at a certain point. And there's always they have the heartbeat thing on.
Prabhu, can you use the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry.
So you could see that, the heartbeat was getting slower, gradually like that, and then eventually it was just a straight line, and he was gone. But he definitely had all in aim. I mean, the whole room was reverberating incredibly.
Yeah, Brajabadu was like that. She said,
Yeah.
she just fasted until death. Bhakti Thakur, so many devotees. So who knows? We don't want to suffer, but Krishna will do to us exactly what he feels is best. So our realization should be, okay, whatever's happening. Just like Guna Maharaj, when I visited him the last time in Vrindavan, it may be the last of this first time I visited, he was, on his way out, or on his way back home, back to Godhead. But one thing he told me, as soon as he got the news that that's it, he said, everything changed. When you have you're up against, there's nothing left. There's nothing to hold on to. He said, it's just like, and he took it as a great blessing. That was the point he's making. It's a great blessing that there's nothing left in this material world. And it's like, you go like, shift, you're going that way. You think, He said it was a great blessing. But he said, it's like, we can't even fathom what that means. Like, tomorrow, it's over. I had so many plans and this. No, it's over. And what are you going to do? You got to take shelter of Krishna. And it's intense. Very, very intense, but he said it's such a blessing that Krishna just cuts it off. And fortunately, with some warning. He spent a few years there in Vrindavan, with the devotees and so on. So a blessed ending to our life. So who knows? But Krishna will cut it off. Okay. On that happy note, actually, I wanted to bring up one thing. What was the quote you had in the Pujarium today about, I live to be corrected. Huh? Okay, I live to be corrected. So in other words, Krishna's correcting us and just pushing on them. So I live to be corrected. So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
What's that?